Hey everyone, Jim and Chris back with an important subject, interest rates versus APR. Now as an investor, you're going to see when you're looking at our incentive sheets or you're working with a mortgage company, you're going to see your interest rate, you're going to see your APR. But which one is most important for an investor to really pay attention to? Well, we're going to talk about that today. Chris, APR, can you explain a little bit about it because it's kind of an unknown subject?
Well, first, I think it's important to understand why we even show APR.
Yeah.
And the reason we show that is there's something called the Truth in Lending Act that Congress instituted, and it requires lenders and or anyone that is showing an interest rate to also show an APR in any of the marketing and advertising that they're doing. And it's meant to be a way to protect consumers so that consumers can easily compare different banks from each other. So for instance, if one bank had a low interest rate, but they were charging a lot of upfront points or a lot of upfront loan fees, what an APR does is it is a theoretical approach to saying, hey, if we take all of those fees and we spread them out over the life of the loan and add that to the interest payment, what would the interest payment be if you did that exercise? Yeah. You're not actually doing that. So you're not actually adding these fees on top of the loan amount that you pay every month, but it's just a way for a consumer to be able to compare different loan products to determine what's best for them. So, when it comes down to it though, as an investor, we look at those in two different buckets typically. I look at what is the interest rate that I'm paying and how much is my monthly payment. And then I look at what the fees are to close that property, which might be origination points, lender fees, so on and so forth. So those are looked at in two different buckets, but APR is just a way to try and combine those into one number. But it's very important to note, APR is not what you pay on your loan. You pay your interest rate. So your note is based on your interest rate. Everything that's included in APR is actually items that you pay kind of day one at closing when you close on your loan originally.
Yeah. So the question comes to Chris and I all the time, do you pay attention to APR? And I can honestly tell you no. Because just like you, when we're buying a property, we put together a pro forma, just like the ones the properties counselors go over with all of our investor community. And the pro forma, as you guys know, break out lots of information about the property, what's the price, what type of property is it, and then it breaks out the closing cost to initially purchase the property, and then it includes the mortgage and what the interest rate's going to be. The APR kind of combines those two together, and it's very hard for me to actually have that help me calculate whether a deal makes sense for me or not. What I always look at is, again, that initial pro forma, which breaks out the separate closing costs along with the mortgage and the interest rate. And so that's what I've always paid attention to. Again, with thousands of deals, I can honestly say I don't think I've ever used the APR as my marker. It's always dividing those two out, looking at them and saying, does the deal make sense? So we just wanted to make sure that we got you this information. I know it's not one of our most exciting videos, but it's important to know. Mortgage rates, what is it really? Will that be my really long-term rate? Is that the rate on the note? The answer is yes. And how is this APR calculated? Because it's there. You're always going to see it. The government requires it, so everyone's going to show it. But understand, does it really hold the bearing, or does more of the pro forma that we put together? So we always try to make sure that you understand both sides. Chris, anything else to add on that?
For any of you very analytical types, go ahead and go on Google and type in calculation for APR. There's a bunch of different sites that'll come up so you can actually see the full calculation.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Hopefully it gave you a little clarity, and we'll see you next time. Take care.